The two movies I'm going to talk about today are groundbreaking for the same things: the brilliant use of sound design to communicate the dread in a scene, and asking society what it means to be a monster. Of course, these things aren't related thematically and are nowhere near the only things you have to appreciate about these two movies, but they definitely stand out as the biggest cultural contributions of these films to global cinema. The two movies were released about 37 years apart for completely different audiences in completely different places, but they stand the test of time as psychological crime thrillers with an elegant touch of time and place they were made in. Moving forward from here on, I'm going to be revealing the plots of these movies, and you have till the count of 3 to watch them, catch up and come back to the video. All caught up? Good, because I want to start with giving my opinion on I am in no way the first person to make a video essay about Fritz Lang's magical contribution of sound in cinema. You can probably get the full understanding of its extent by watching Jack's Movie Review's video essay about the same. Remember that M was made in 1931. Sound in cinema wasn't new at this time, but was certainly limited to the utility of eliminating the need of title cards in movies and in turn help tell more complex, conversation-intensive stories. But Fritz Lang goes far and beyond to set a very menacing tone to the movie with one of the most iconic opening scenes in cinema. And instantly, you know it's a movie about a child killer. And it sets a tone for the movie where every time a child is on the screen, you can't help but be worried about it. Of course, the movie goes on to explore how it's a crime so extraordinarily vile to the city that even the criminals claim moral high ground over the wild child-killing monster. And the fact that the murderer wrote a letter about his deeds to gain pleasure from it makes you realize the extent of his evilness. At least that's the intention. But the crown jewel in the movie's sound design is undoubtedly the whistling scenes. The murderer keeps whistling in the Hall of the Mountain King whenever he is stalking his prey or working to lure them into his traps. This tune in particular sounds like a stylizing choice in the beginning for a smooth, menacing criminal, and it works to send shivers down your spine, because it gives you this wolf in human's clothing preying on the youngest and the most important parts of society, and he successfully makes the connection in your brain of impending doom and danger with an otherwise non-threatening song. The whistle is how he turns the movie around as well, because it is burnt into its fabric. You see M buying balloons for his first victim on the screen from a blind vagabond while whistling the same tune. And by the time he finds out his next victims, the beggars of the entire city have been recruited by the organized criminals to find him. And the blind vagabond selling balloons on the same corner identifies the murderer instantly because of this sound, and tracks him for the entire city just based on this song. The same way Twisted Nerve of Bernard Herrmann becomes the sound of a creepy psychopath in Bolting Brothers' Twisted Nerve. The reason that song sounds familiar by the title itself is because it was such a good and influential track that Quentin Tarantino ended up putting it in Kill Bill Volume 1. For most of the movie, the film and you have the most important secret to the story being told, that the innocent looking boy doesn't mean well, and is good at earning a favor from the people he wants it from. The movie uses the soundtrack to make us painfully aware of the skillful liar on the screen and how well he's disguised in public. The directors also use a POV shot in their first use of the track in the movie to see exactly what the villain or protagonist desires and sees in the world, and it helps building the tension for every moment you see the boy on screen with other people. Bernard Herrmann's track is single-handedly the most iconic thing about this movie, and without a doubt kept this movie relevant as an influence for years to come. For people who have actually watched both the movies, I have to address the elephant in the room about the second one. Twisted Nerve was not exactly scientifically accurate or sensitive to a very real problem, and it was an ignorant narrative to take, even in 1968, in those standards. In the words of the filmmakers themselves, as they put narrative on the background of the beginning of the movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, in view of the controversy already aroused, the producers of this film wish to re-emphasize what is already stated in the film, that there is no established scientific connection between Mongolism and psychotic or criminal behavior.
If you're having trouble keeping up, they link the delinquent behavior performed by the villain to Down syndrome, which his brother has, in a very cringe-inducingly manner where it is referred to as
a Mongol.
This was a huge deal during the release of the movie, as it rightfully should have been, but on a larger picture, it asked one right question in a very, very horrible way. Is evil the deed, or the thought, or a combination of the two? Of course, the villain has a psychotic tendency and huge body image issues, along with family issues, one of which is circumstantial. He seems to be creating a harmless self to receive love and care from others and use him to mask the maniac that wants revenge and would like to destroy and kill when he's angry. The mother's love he gets in both houses he enters, and his murder of his manic controlling self in the climax leaves us unanswered of whether he was in control the whole time or was he not, and things are very open to interpretation. Still, the huge factual inaccuracy misguides us from the one important question it actually meant to ask. The same resonates in a much better and frankly ahead of its time in sort of a way in M, during the final act of the film. The murderer is under trial in front of a court of criminals, where he breaks down and tells them he feels like he needs to do what he does to these children, and now we have more evidence than ever that it is a very hard to swallow behavior pattern known to happen among individuals of our society to this day, where they have no say in feeling the way they do, and in some cases even acting on the way they do. Of course, in both cases, the act of the crimes they do remain inherently evil, and the act of their crimes needs to be stopped at all costs, because the consequences are too expensive. But the question remains, how do we determine whether the criminal who was the agent of these acts was in fact in control and deserves punishment and not just containment as a threat? And I will do a half-assed job and leave that for you to find out.